All right, folks, starting to get warm and people always call in, what is the biggest bang for our buck? What are the things I should do? And I'm going to tell you 20 years of experience in buying, selling, investing in real estate, buying, renovating, doing the work. 3 things I want you to think about, okay? Skip these expensive items that end up not giving you the value. 2, I want you to make sure you're thinking of doing highest perceived value items. And 3, hire the right people. Let's go through these super quick. Folks, when you're going through a renovation, I want you to think about the following. When you're doing kitchens and bathrooms, they are the biggest resale items. But if you do 2 more expensive, according to a cost value report, people were only getting almost 38% back from this expensive kitchen renovation. So I don't want you to go in and say, I'm gonna put my home on the market, so I'm gonna rip out this kitchen and put in this grandiose kitchen. No. Number 1, it needs to fit the neighborhood and the location in the area. 2, it has to make sure that it's the type and value that's gonna make sense. And 3, it's probably not necessary. You could probably end up doing the floors, doing the countertops, doing the things that are gonna be the safety and maintenance items and cleaning it up, as opposed to if that property is just dilapidated and it really is a maintenance kitchen, meaning it needs everything in it, so it needs a repair. It needs to be renovated in order to bring it to the market value. So when you're thinking about biggest bang for your buck, I want you to think about the following, okay? Kitchens and bathrooms, those are gonna be the biggest resale items, but they can also be the most expensive. Goes to item number 2. Let's spend our money where it makes sense. We're gonna focus on perceived value. Perceived value is essentially the cosmetic items, the things that we can touch up or improve. We typically, in 90+% of our properties, we're doing paint, carpet, or hardwood floors. Why? Because it's the highest perceived value. When people go in and it looks clean, smells clean, and feels updated, they feel like, man, this is what I've been looking for. But sometimes when we're going over the top, our rate of return drops. According to that cost value report, when it was evaluating some of the numbers, for example, a garage door was over 200% value. Stone veneer, over 150% value. Why? We've talked about this in the past. If we've met in person, I tell you about this, whether we're buying our own home or buying one of our investment properties, we focus on curb appeal, kitchen, baths, and amenities, okay? But that curb appeal, if you can change and adjust those items, it ends up making not only the home more attractive, but the perceived value higher. So when people walk through that door, they're typically gonna make an impression within the first 10 seconds of walking through that door. And if it's clean, light, bright, you've done some higher perceived value, they typically are making a decision whether they're gonna buy that property or they're gonna walk right back out. And so there's properties that people walk in, they're gonna spend an hour there. Other ones, they walk through the front door and they're like, whoop, and then they just turn on their heels and flip back the other way. Third item I want you to think about, hire the right contractor. I want you to get just a couple quick notes here, okay? 1, get good referrals, right? If you don't have good referrals, you have very great search engines, very great apps that can essentially locate one. Get 3 bids. Why get 3 bids? Because everybody's gonna give you a different perception. One's typically gonna be really low and it's gonna just not make sense. One's gonna be way too high just because they have this amazing big F450 truck and it's like you're paying for their lifestyle, okay? But you'll find that you end up having different folks that are craftsmanship is amazing. They have a lot of tenure and they give you very good advice. So I just say, look for people that can give a very good perspective and give you guidance and a plan. And then finally, just remember there's also the Utah Construction Registry where you can register kind of that job so that they're aware of it, and just make sure they're licensed and insured. You know, if something goes wrong, you want to be aware of where you're at in the process and make sure that they're stable in their income. You know, if they're asking for full money up front, that doesn't make sense. But if they do need money, materials, well, guess what? That's probably something you need to consider. You need to make sure there's either money on hand or how you're going to pay for it. And then the last thing when hiring a contractor, just make sure you add in a little bit just in case you make changes. I typically would say add 10 or 20% to that pricing just mentally, just in case you're going to need to make some changes or adjustments and they're going to have to come back. Okay. But folks, if you're considering putting your property on as the market's changing and you want to know what should I be doing, how should I be doing it, please reach out to us. Let us give you a custom plan. I literally talked to a gentleman today that was that exact issue, and I said, look, these are the things that we could essentially do, and it just came down to what's the plan, what are my options, and let's go through what you would get out of that. What is the highest and best use? What is the maximum value doing this, this, and this? And where would it be perceived in the market? And so that's what we do for you. If you need any help, please reach out. Looking forward to assisting you, and best of luck. Thanks.